There are moments in life when you stop explaining yourself and you stop trying to prove your value to people who never wanted to see it in the first place. And that silence, that calm distance, that quiet shift in how you move, that's what makes people regret ever hurting you. Because silence has a power that noise will never have. Most folks don't understand this until they lose access to it. They don't realize how much your presence meant until your energy is no longer available on demand. When you finally choose yourself, when you finally stop giving unlimited chances, that's when the regret kicks in. When someone underestimates your worth, your silence becomes louder than anything you could ever say. People don't realize the weight of their actions when they think you'll always be there, always understanding, always forgiving, always available. But the moment you decide that you're done explaining, done trying to fix what you didn't break, done carrying relationships on your shoulders, that's when the silence begins to speak. And let me tell you, silence has a way of exposing the truth that words can't touch. It shows people exactly who you are and exactly who they've been. There comes a time when you stop repeating yourself. You stop saying, "This hurt me." You stop saying, "I expected better." You stop saying, "I deserve more." Because after a while, you realize that the people who truly value you don't need constant reminders. And the people who don't value you will never understand no matter how many times you say it. So you step back, you get quiet. Not because you're weak, not because you've given up, but because you finally recognize your own value. You realize that peace is worth more than proving a point. Your silence becomes a message all on its own. It tells people, "I'm not begging for the bare minimum." It tells them, "I'm no longer accepting what drains me." It says, "I deserve better, and I'm giving myself better." And this change, this shift, is what makes people regret ever hurting you, because they expected you to keep talking, to keep arguing, to keep fighting for something they never fought for. They expected you to stay emotional so they could stay comfortable. But when you go silent, you break that pattern. You take your power back. People don't regret losing your words. They regret losing your presence. The way you understood them, the way you made things easier for them, the way you supported them even when they didn't support you. When you go quiet, they start remembering all those moments they never appreciated. They remember the kindness they took advantage of. They remember the loyalty they didn't return. They replay conversations in their head, wishing they had listened more carefully, wishing they had spoken more gently, wishing they had treated you with the respect you deserved. Silence creates space. Space for you to heal, space for you to grow, space for them to notice what they lost. And in that space, something powerful happens. You begin to see yourself clearly again. You remember your value, your strength, your worth. Meanwhile, they begin to see their mistakes clearly. They notice the sudden emptiness where your presence used to be. They feel the absence of your energy, your care, your support. And that absence teaches them more than any speech ever could. Your silence becomes the reminder that you were a blessing in their life. It becomes a mirror that forces them to confront their own behavior. And when they finally understand what they had and why it's gone, that's when regret settles in. Not because you wanted revenge, but because silence told the truth louder than any words ever could. There comes a point in life when emotional distance becomes the loudest lesson you'll ever teach someone. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to argue. You don't even have to explain what they did wrong. The moment you pull your energy back, the moment you stop showing up the way you used to, that's when people start realizing what they had. Emotional distance is powerful because it quietly exposes the truth. They took you for granted, and now they're feeling the emptiness of what they lost. It's not revenge, it's not punishment, it's simply the consequence of their behavior catching up with them. People often mistake your presence as something permanent. They think the attention you give, the care you offer, the love you share will always be available on demand. They get so comfortable with your consistency that they stop putting in effort. They forget that your energy was a choice, not an obligation. But when you change that choice, when you finally pull back, it shocks them. It forces them to confront the reality that you were not just another person in their life. You were the difference between peace and chaos, between feeling supported and feeling alone. That emotional distance becomes the wake-up call they never expected. Suddenly, your silence feels heavier than your words ever did. They begin to notice things they ignored before. They notice you're no longer asking how their day went. They notice you're no longer the first to apologize just to keep the peace. They notice you're no longer available at every call, every message, every convenience. And that's when regret starts working on them, because now they feel the loss of the comfort they once dismissed. People don't realize how much you held them together until you stop holding them. They don't understand the value of your loyalty until they feel the coldness of your absence. They don't see the weight of your support until it's no longer holding up the parts of their life they were too careless to manage. Emotional distance teaches them that your effort was something special and they should have treated it with respect. It teaches them that your presence wasn't ordinary, it was a blessing they didn't honor. What makes emotional distance so powerful is that it changes the entire dynamic without you saying a single word. You just move differently. You stop giving energy to people who drain it. You stop prioritizing people who put you last. You stop defending people who wouldn't defend you. And while you're doing this, they're over there trying to understand when things changed. They replay memories, trying to figure out the moment you started slipping away, not knowing that the moment they hurt you was the moment you began to protect yourself. Your distance becomes the truth they can't run from. It reminds them that real connections require effort, respect, and appreciation. It reminds them that emotional intimacy doesn't survive on one-sided investment. And most of all, it reminds them that losing someone with a genuine heart hurts in a way nothing else can. The quiet space you create becomes the place where their regret grows, because now they finally understand that the way you cared was rare, and they should have valued it before it slipped out of their reach. Nothing makes people regret hurting you more than watching you grow without them. When someone mistreats you, disrespects your heart, or plays with your loyalty, they often assume you'll stay stuck. They think you'll crumble, stay broken, stay lost, or stay waiting for them to come back. What they don't realize is that pain has a way of pushing you forward. It becomes the fuel that strengthens you, sharpens you, and transforms you into a version of yourself they never believed you could become. And when that growth starts to show, when your confidence starts returning, when your light starts shining again, that's when their regret hits them the hardest. People underestimate you because they think they know your limits. They think the way you were with them is the way you'll always be. But heartbreak is funny. Sometimes it's the very thing that wakes you up. It forces you to focus on yourself in a way you never did before. You start healing in silence. You start working on your goals. You start discovering parts of yourself you ignored while you were too busy pouring into someone who didn't appreciate you. And slowly, without announcing it, you begin to rise. Your growth becomes their reminder of what they could have had if they treated you right. They remember the way you believed in them, the way you supported them, the way you loved without holding back. And now they're watching you give that energy to your dreams instead of giving it to them. They see you leveling up, upgrading your mindset, building your strength, and becoming someone who doesn't need their approval, their attention, or their validation anymore. That independence stings them because they never expected you to stand on your own. Growth hurts people who took advantage of your softness. They counted on you staying wounded. They thought their actions would break you permanently. But instead of breaking, you evolved. You learned your worth. You stopped begging for bare minimum effort. You unlocked a version of yourself that finally understands self-respect, boundaries, and peace. That version of you is a shock to the people who once thought they had power over your emotions. And as you grow, you stop responding the way you used to. You stop giving them access to the parts of you they didn't honor. You stop giving them opportunities to hurt you again. You stop explaining, apologizing, and overgiving. You simply move forward, and that forward movement makes them replay everything they said and did. They look at your transformation and realize they could have been a part of your journey if they had treated you with the love and respect you deserved. Your progress becomes the mirror they didn't ask for but desperately need. They see the strength you gained, the confidence you rebuilt, and the peace you fought for. And in that reflection, they recognize the damage they caused, not because you told them, but because your growth exposes it. Watching you become better without them becomes the regret they can't escape. Because now they understand that hurting you didn't break you, it awakened you. And there's no going back from that. Your absence has a way of teaching people lessons your presence never could. When someone hurts you, they don't always understand what they've done in that moment. They don't realize what they've lost because they're still surrounded by the comfort of having you there. They still hear your voice, feel your support, depend on your understanding, and rely on your patience. But the day you choose to step back, the day you stop showing up, the day you stop making yourself available, everything changes. The absence of your presence becomes louder than any argument, any explanation, any warning you could have given. It creates a silence that forces people to confront the truth they ignored when they took you for granted. People get used to your energy. They get comfortable with the way you care, the way you listen, the way you help them hold their life together. They get so used to you being the one who brings calmness, stability, and encouragement that they don't think twice before hurting you. They think you'll always bounce back. They think you'll always forgive and forget. They think you'll always be waiting on the other side of their mistakes. But your absence destroys that illusion. The moment you walk away, not dramatically, not angrily, just calmly and intentionally, they begin to feel something they never felt before, the weight of what they lost. Your absence hits them in the quiet moments. That's when they start noticing the difference. They notice the peace you brought because suddenly their world feels chaotic without you. They notice the support you offered because now they have no one to lean on when life gets heavy. They notice the comfort of your presence because their days feel colder, emptier, and lonelier without your energy warming them. They notice how much they depended on your kindness because now all they feel is the loneliness created by their own actions. The space you leave behind becomes a mirror. It shows them how careless they were with your heart. It shows them how selfish their choices were. It shows them every moment they ignored your needs while expecting you to meet theirs. And as they sit with that reflection, regret begins to grow. It grows quietly at first, just a small thought, a little discomfort. But that discomfort becomes a constant reminder of the peace they destroyed, trust they broke, and the love they mishandled. Your absence teaches them that you were not just someone. You were the difference in their life. You were the calm after their chaos. You were the understanding voice when they felt misunderstood. You were the one who kept giving even when you were tired. You were the one who stayed loyal even when they gave you every reason not to. When they lose someone with a heart like that, it leaves an emptiness that doesn't fade easily. People think regret comes from big moments, but the deepest regret comes from the small realizations. The realization that they don't have someone to celebrate their wins with. The realization that no one checks on them the way you did. The realization that no one understands them without them having to explain. The realization that they lost someone who brought peace, not problems. And when they finally understand that your presence was a blessing, your absence becomes their punishment, not because you wanted it, but because that is simply the natural consequence of losing someone genuine. Your absence becomes the reminder they didn't ask for but desperately needed. It teaches them that you were valuable. It teaches them that love, loyalty, and peace are not guaranteed, they are earned. And when they look around and realize they no longer have access to the version of you they once took for granted, the regret becomes something they can't shake off. Your absence is not a reaction, it's a revelation. And it reveals exactly what they lost. Self-respect is one of the strongest messages you can ever send without opening your mouth. When someone hurts you and you finally decide to stand on your worth, that shift changes everything. You don't need to argue, you don't need to convince them, and you surely don't need to beg them to understand what they lost. Your self-respect becomes the reality check they never saw coming. It's the moment they realize that the version of you who tolerated disrespect, inconsistency, or half-hearted effort no longer exists. And that's when regret starts creeping into their mind because they're no longer dealing with the person they thought they had control over. They're dealing with someone who finally woke up. When you start valuing yourself, the energy around you changes. You stop responding to disrespect disguised as jokes. You stop accepting excuses wrapped in pretty words. You stop letting people come and go from your life like your heart is a revolving door. That level of self-respect makes people uncomfortable, especially the ones who were benefiting from your softness. They were used to you being understanding, patient, and forgiving. They counted on you being the one who always tried, the one who always reached out first, the one who fixed the connection when they were the ones who broke it. But when you choose self-respect, you take that power back and they feel it instantly. Self-respect shows up in the smallest changes. It shows up when you stop sending long messages explaining why you deserve better. It shows up when you stop begging for clarity or closure. It shows up when you stop overthinking someone's behavior and start trusting your own standards. You stop asking, "Why did they do that to me?" And you start saying, "I'm not letting this happen again." That shift is not loud, but it is powerful. And while you're growing in silence, they're over there realizing how badly they misjudged you. People regret hurting someone who respects themselves because they realize too late that they were dealing with someone rare, someone who gave love without manipulation, someone who stayed loyal even when they were taken for granted, someone who tried to understand instead of assuming the worst. When that kind of person finally chooses distance and dignity over chaos and confusion, it hits different. They start remembering everything you brought into their life that they dismissed. They remember your patience. They remember your honesty. They remember your effort. And they feel the sting of their own choices. What really creates regret is when you show, not tell, that you're done accepting the bare minimum, because people expect you to react emotionally. They expect you to chase after them, prove your worth, to fight for something they wouldn't fight for themselves. But when your response is simply respecting yourself enough to walk away, it shocks them. They didn't expect you to grow that much. They didn't expect you to put yourself first. They didn't expect you to finally recognize your own value. And that unexpected strength becomes their regret. Self-respect teaches people a lesson they can't ignore. You're not afraid to lose someone who doesn't value you. And that's powerful because most people operate like they can do whatever they want and you'll still be there. But when you show them that you're willing to let them go rather than let yourself go, that's when they realize the truth. You were never the weak one. You were the one with the biggest heart. And now you're the one with the strongest boundaries. Regret grows when they understand that respect raised the standard, something they refused to do when they had the chance. They're left thinking about how easily they could have kept you if they had simply treated you right. But now your self-respect has closed a door they can't reopen, and that door becomes the reminder of everything they lost. Success has a way of speaking for you long after you stop explaining yourself to people.